can you give us some examples or tips of how a parent might adjust their parenting to the developmental stage rather than the chronicle age of a child that they are parenting?
In the beginning, the smartest thing to do is to sort of have a default, that even though they're 10 and you expect them to act like a 10-year-old, you need to remind yourself that, he may not have those skills yet. So walk him through or walk her through your expectations. If you want them to get up in the morning and go through a certain routine of getting dressed, make your bed, come to breakfast, brush your teeth, get your homework, be ready, make sure everything's in your backpack, you can't just tell them. The first time you do that, actually walk them through it. And what you'll see is, as you are doing this in parallel with them, you'll recognize that they do fine if they have a single command and you're there to help scaffold them. That's what we call scaffolding, is that you're present while they're doing this new skill. That's probably, as I'm using the example of getting ready for school, but you should do this with everything. You should basically assume that the child that you've brought into your home, brought into your life, is going to need much more adult help than a child who is chronologically 10. And then by doing this, by kind of spending time with the child, seeing what they can do, what they can't do, seeing where they struggle, you can begin to get an assessment in your own head of where they are in these developmental characteristics, and then you can set realistic expectations. So instead of giving them 5 things to do in the morning on their own, you give them 1 thing to do in their morning on their own, and then you'll kind of walk with them through the next 4. And then once they do that successfully for a couple of weeks, then you give them 2 things to do on their own in a row, and then you do 3 things with them in parallel. And literally, the idea is if you meet a child where they are and you help them sort of progress and mature with repetitions and success, then they'll start to recapture a healthier developmental trajectory. But if you continue to have unrealistic expectations, all you're doing is setting yourself up for miserable mornings and fighting and dysregulation, and it actually helps them stay stuck where they are developmentally.
Bruce, it's been so great to have you on this podcast about child development. Your expertise and your examples and your advice are really like gold for parents. So thank you for being here.
Believe me, it's my pleasure, April. Thank you.
NTDC was funded by the Children's Bureau, Administration on Children, Youth, and Families, Administration for Children and Families, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, under grant number 90CO1134. The contents of this podcast are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of the Children's Bureau.